Welcome to episode 23 of Cajun Classic Cars TV. Let's see what's driving up now. Cajun Classic Cars TV presented by Vicari Auction. We're at Buhlow Lake in Pineville, Louisiana, and I've got Logan. Tell me about what we're going to be looking at today, Logan.
Today we're looking at my 1984 Porsche 944.
Buhlow Lake is named after Lieutenant Alphonse Bulo, who entered the Confederate Army on August 18, 1861 as a private in the 11th Louisiana Infantry Regiment. He was put in charge of building one of two forts for the Confederate Army. Local plantation slave labor were brought in March 1865 to build these forts to prevent anticipated Union attacks. So Logan, no offense, you're a bit younger than me, so my car history goes way back to working with my dad in the garage, but what started your love of cars?
Well, it started with my great-grandpa. He really liked cars. He was a mechanic for a long time, and he actually wanted to restore a 60s Ford Ranchero with me. We never got around to that, and he's not around anymore, but I did get to show him this car, and what I really like about this car is just the history behind it. I love the preservation of old things, just really keeping this alive. That's really what matters to me.
You mentioned Ford Ranchero. I used to have a 73 Torino, which was the car version of the Ranchero, or I should say the truck. The Ranchero was the truck version of the Torino. So I got a little bit of history of that, and I'm sorry, you and your great-grandfather
Yes, sir.
didn't get a chance to restore that, but you've still got that memory, and you've got that story, and that'll be with you forever. And that's the cool thing, isn't it, Logan, about cars? It's not always about the cars, but about the stories of the people behind them.
That's right. One day I'll get a Ford Ranchero.
I'll pray for that for you, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Logan, let's walk around and talk a little bit about this Porsche 944, man.
Well, first thing, right here we've got the cookie cutter style rims. They are not stock, but they are the more desirable kind, and that was just a nice thing whenever I bought it. I really do like the style of them, especially with the Porsche painted caps. Moving on along, you can really see these wide fender flares in the front and in the rear. I really think that's what adds a lot of character to it. That's what makes it unique. Coming back along, you'll notice my massive glass hatch. This thing is a beautiful gift and curse. It's, if you break it, you're out of luck. And so I've been really careful with this one. I've actually pulled this thing completely off of the car, deconstructed it from spoiler to frame, and resealed it to keep its longevity. It's been close to 41 years now with this car on the road. Coming back along, rest of the side of the car, a couple dings and dents because, I do what I can. But up here in the front, we got a little battle wound right here. My dad did a pretty good job covering that up for me. I parked in the front yard one day, and he backed into it with his trailer hitch, and he was a little scared to tell me because he knew how much I liked the car, but it all worked out, and he helped me get it set right.
So Logan, let's get right to the history of this Porsche. Tell us a little bit about it.
The early 80s, Porsche was in a bit of a tough spot with money. They had been falling behind. Their 911, which was their flagship model, there wasn't many buyers for such a high-end car. Not many people, they weren't getting as many sales, and they had come out with the 924 prior to this car, and the problem with that car was it was more Audi and Volkswagen than it was Porsche. It had the Audi engine, all the parts were Volkswagen, everything about it. It seems like Porsche had no part in it, and a lot of people do not like that car for that reason. But comes along this car, very similar body, but what they did, they widened out the fender flares and the whole stance of it. They gave it a meaner look, and they built it like a Porsche from top to bottom. Everything about it is just unique in that way.
Well, if you look at a previous episode of Cajun Classic Cars TV, I believe it was episode number 2, Joe down in Thibodeau has a 914. And Logan, if you haven't checked that episode out, it's a pretty little green car, but it kind of suffered from that whole Volkswagen versus Porsche thing. And I won't go too much into the story because people can watch it, but that pretty much was all Volkswagen.
Yeah.
And so the story has it that one of the guys with Volkswagen and Porsche got together, and then the guy passed away, and Porsche said, let's sell it to the Americans. It's a Porsche. They'll buy it. And I guess we did.
Yeah, and that's right. I mean, these cars, what made this car make such big waves, it was actually became the best-selling Porsche at the time until it got beat by the Boxster in the early 2000s. It became the best-selling one because it was at such a compelling price, and it was just a real Porsche all the way through and through. So you had, people becoming, upper middle class people wanting to have the status car. It was the right price. And it was a Porsche. I mean, people loved it.
I have to be honest with you. When I was in high school, your car, your model, was my dream car. And I never got a chance to achieve my dream. So I'm excited about filming it because it's sort of living a little bit of my dream, but it's always been my car. I love the shape. I love the motor in it. I just love the story behind it. And like you said, it sort of brought Porsche back from not being cool. It came back, and it came back with a vengeance because of the really cool, stylish sports car look that America was looking for.
Yes, sir.
Logan, we're probably not going to see this somewhere in the parking lot or under the garage at a mechanic shop, right?
That's right. I learned very early on that anybody else touching my car is really expensive. There's only a handful of shops that'll even look at this car, and the ones that do are really value their time, let's say. So I've learned that I have to do everything that this car needs. And I've learned how to do all kinds of things. Going into this, I had no prior mechanical knowledge, and I've just learned as things break or as things need to be done with help from my dad or help from the internet, whatever I can do, I exclusively have to be the one working on this thing.
So Logan, you pretty much use this as a daily driver, right?
Well, I daily drove it for 2 years since last spring. I got a 2002 4Runner that I take around when I've got to fix or deal with whatever this car brings me.
And as everybody knows, when you love old cars, there's always going to be something to break out a little bit of money, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Right. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. I love the story. I saw you, I don't know, a couple of months ago at a cruise-in on a dank, dreary day, but it was a pleasure meeting you and hearing you talk to folks. You were holding court about your car, and that sparked my imagination. That I love hearing the stories, and I love it when people are DIYers. They do it themselves. They do-it-yourselfers, and so that's kind of what you and your dad have done, right? And one of the stories that kind of sparked my imagination is you guys doing the paint.
Right.
So
yes.
We'll talk a little bit about that.
Pasadena yellow was the original color on this car, and I just sprayed over with the same stuff, and not everybody's a fan of it. I'll tell you, the guy that I bought the paint from was not a fan of it. He asked me if I was sure I wanted the pea yellow color on my car.
Pea yellow.
Yeah, I don't see it that way though.
Yeah, I don't know if I see pea yellow. At least you didn't use puke green, I guess.
That's right. I mean, some people call it pollen yellow, and I think that's more accurate, especially during this season. The pollen will get on the windshields, but unlike other cars, you cannot tell that there's pollen on my car because it is almost the same color.
So it's practical, utilitarian, and it's a color you like.
That's right.
Here's a few shots of Logan's Porsche while they were doing a little bit of rehab on it.
Let's take a look under the hood. All right, under the hood we have a 2.5 liter inline 4 that makes 143 horsepower. By modern standards, it's not a whole lot, but and even then it wasn't really a whole lot. But it has some very interesting advantages that make it uniquely Porsche, make it uniquely German, and make it iconic like it was back then. One thing, this engine's made out of an aluminum alloy, making it particularly light compared to other engines. And if you pair that with the fact it has a transaxle, meaning the transmission and differential are combined into one unit and located in the rear, you have near 50-50 weight distribution, which allows you to really go at high speeds around corners. It makes it very versatile. So maybe it wouldn't beat the C4, C3 Corvette in a straight line, but if you bring it around the curves, this car comes out on top. Brian, let's take a look inside. All right, now that we're inside, I've done a couple things to the interior myself. I still have a lot that I'd like to do. First of all, we've got these leather seats, very unique leather. I actually can't figure out whether or not it was factory or if it was aftermarket. Either way, I really love the look of them. I think it ties everything together in here. Second of all, I've got the steering wheel. It's a Momo Prototipo. It's similar, also not original. I would have loved to keep the original wheel. I actually had that in here initially, but it was just falling to pieces, and I can't have the thing that I steer with fall to pieces. So I've replaced it with this, a bit smaller, but I do love the look of it. Also, I've got my dashboard. I've completely recovered my dashboard with new leather from a custom vendor that sells leather specifically for Porsche models like this. It was custom cut and everything. But just because it was custom cut doesn't mean the job was easy. It was one of the most challenging jobs I've ever done on this car. It came out pretty good. There's several things that I would do differently and be more careful with if I redid it again, but but it looks a whole lot better than it did before. Last, you'll notice these yellow gauges up here, and most notably the tachometer. You'll notice how it swings from right to left. It swings downward, which is something only on the early model cars, which is very interesting. A lot of people really like the style of it. I think it's iconic. It just shows off more of the interesting German engineering stuff that really makes this car different. Well, that sunroof is sealed shut for now. Those sunroofs are known to have problems and be very over-engineered with lots of failure points. That's one weak point here. So I've got that thing tightened shut, and I am not going to open it because I don't want any water in here. One day, I hope to diagnose all of the possible mechanical issues, but for now, it's shut. Well, I assume you've noticed the pop-up headlights. I really love my pop-up headlights. Actually, when I was looking for a vehicle, I told my dad that I really want a car with pop-up headlights. And to that, he responded, "That's the stupidest thing he's ever heard," because that's not a standard to pick your first vehicle. But turns out I got my pop-up headlights. I'll go ahead and bring them up. Well, I've got myself a 5-speed manual transmission, and I feel like that's the only way to do a car like this. You know, you have the automatic, and a car like this, you can't really have the same fun that you can with this manual.
You know, a lot of times these 80s cars, they were sort of a transition of real good quality in a lot of cars to so mass-produced that they kind of tore apart. I'm really impressed with a lot of the leather in here, Logan, especially the seats, not really torn up that much. And then the door, the leather on the door. I find that they're pretty doggone good shape.
Oh yeah, this is probably near the end of the built right before you get into the more lack of quality. It comes in waves, but I don't think it'll ever get back to how it used to be. But this is it's well preserved, but it's also a lot easier to preserve. How about we start her up? We're good.
This 944 is going to be on a road trip real soon. Tell us a little bit about that, Logan.
So there's an annual meeting between all 944 owners. I hadn't heard about it until recently, and basically owners from all over the country and out of the country, people even ship their cars overseas to make it to this event. It's almost exclusively 944s meeting together, hundreds of them, at a racetrack for Labor Day weekend. It's a big event, and I'm planning to continue to restore my car over the summer so that by the time Labor Day rolls around, I'm able to drive this thing 1,000 miles each.
Where's this meet at?
It's at Virginia International Raceway. It's a bigger venue than they've done in the past, so they should have plenty of room, and I'm really excited to go for my first time.
Maybe they'll let you race it around the track.
Maybe.
Well, Logan, thanks so much for showing off your Porsche 944. It means a lot.
Yes,
And yeah, and thank you so much. Tell a friend about Cajun Classic Cars TV, and you guys do the same thing. And also visit our sponsor's website, VicariAuction.com.